The kitchen was never supposed to be dark at this hour. 11 at night. The hotel had gone quiet the way hotels go quiet when the guests are sleeping and the staff have gone home, and the only people left are the ones who were never supposed to be there. The corridor outside was empty. The lobby was down to one light. And in the kitchen, the only illumination in the entire room was the cold blue glow of a phone screen. He was standing at the far end of the prep counter, still, utterly still, like a man who had learned a long time ago that the person who moves first loses something they cannot get back. His name was Kang, and if you knew what that name meant in this city, you would already understand why nobody asked him what he was doing in a hotel kitchen at 11 at night. They simply made sure they were not in that kitchen themselves. Beside him, slightly behind and to the left, stood another figure, quieter, if such a thing was possible, watching the door. They were not there for the kitchen. They were there for what the kitchen's books had been hiding. Someone in this building had been taking money from a man who does not hold a charitable view of being stolen from, and Kang had come to put his own eyes on the evidence before he decided what came next. That was when the back door opened. She stopped. Just stopped. 1 foot inside the door and 1 still in the corridor, a phone charger dangling from her hand because she had left it on the counter 6 hours earlier and driven all the way back for it because tomorrow was going to be a long day and she needed it charged. She looked at the 2 figures standing in her kitchen in the dark, and for 3 full seconds, not one person in that room made a sound. Then he turned, and he looked at her, and in a voice that was quiet and completely certain he said, "You're not supposed to be here." She did not know if he was talking to her. She did not move, and then she heard it. From somewhere behind her in the corridor, the small, precise, unmistakable sound of a safety mechanism releasing on a weapon. Her body understood what her mind was still catching up to. She went completely still. Completely. Then his hand came up. One hand. Slow, without looking away from her face. The sound stopped. He held her gaze for 1 more moment, and then he said, even quieter than before, "Don't come in early tomorrow." He picked up his phone. He nodded once to the figure behind him, and they walked out through the far door without another word or a single look back. She stood in her kitchen in the dark, phone charger in her right hand. Heart doing something she did not have a name for, the faint trace of expensive fabric lingering in the air where he had been standing. She was 38 years old and she had told everyone who would listen that she was absolutely done with all of this. She stood there for a very long time. Her kitchen smelled like cardamom and something sweet and slightly smoky that you could never quite name but could always find your way back to. Naya had been running her catering operation for 7 years. 7 years of early mornings and late deliveries and last-minute menu changes and clients who discovered food allergies after the contract was signed. 7 years of building something real out of nothing but her own skill and a set of knives her mother had given her when she was 22 and a stubbornness that everyone in her life had learned to stop arguing with. The kitchen she worked out of sat on the lower ground floor of a mid-tier city hotel. She had negotiated her lease there 4 years earlier with a quiet ferocity that left the previous property manager slightly stunned. The space was hers between certain hours, and she treated it like a kingdom. Her kingdom. Clean, precise, warm, and absolutely on her terms. She was good at what she did. More than good. She was the kind of caterer that clients called with 2 weeks' notice because they knew she would not panic and she would not cut corners, and whatever came out of her kitchen would make the people at the event feel like they had done something right with their lives. The morning after the man in the dark kitchen told her not to come in early, she came in at her normal time and found the kitchen exactly as she had left it. No sign of anyone. She made herself a coffee, tied her apron, and began prep. She did not think about the scar on his jaw. She thought about the difference between cardamom and star anise and whether the client on Thursday was going to try to change the menu again. She was 38 years old. She had made peace with a great many things. Her best friend Dana, who had known her for 15 years and had an opinion about everything and shared it without being asked, was of the view that Naya's peace was a performance. "You are not at peace," Dana told her that Wednesday evening, sitting on the counter of the kitchen during Naya's late prep shift, eating from a bowl of leftover garnish. "You are at avoidance. They look similar from the outside, but one of them is actually resting and the other one is just running very slowly." "I am at peace," Naya said without looking up from what she was doing. "You drove back at 11 at night for a phone charger. I needed it charged. You have 3 other chargers at home. I have seen them." Naya did not respond to this. She moved her knife with a precision that communicated that the conversation was over. Dana ate another piece of garnish. If you are watching this from somewhere that understands what it means to build something entirely with your own hands, drop your city in the comments right now. Because Naya built hers from nothing and she did it without asking a single person for permission. She had a meeting that afternoon with the contracting director of a luxury hotel chain that was expanding its city presence and needed a catering partner for 3 of its new properties. She had spent 2 weeks on her proposal. The numbers were meticulous, the menu concepts were original and precisely calibrated to the brief. She had cross-referenced their brand identity with her operational capacity and built a presentation that she privately believed was the best work she had ever submitted. This contract would change everything, not just financially. It would take her business from something she ran alone to something she led. First hire, first team, first real expansion. She wanted this with a clarity that she reserved for very few things. She was not thinking about love. She was thinking about projected staffing ratios and whether her prep delivery logistics could scale to 3 simultaneous venues without quality loss. She was not thinking about him. She was not. The meeting went well. Better than well. The director had read the full proposal before she arrived and spent 20 minutes asking specific, informed questions. She answered every one of them. When she walked out of that office, she stood on the pavement outside and allowed herself exactly 10 seconds of private celebration before putting her professional face back on. 10 seconds. She had earned them. She did not see the man in the dark suit watching from the window of the upper floor. She did not see him at all. That evening, Dana called. "Tell me about this man," Dana said. No greeting. No preamble. Dana had never believed in preamble. "There is no man," Naya said. "There is a man. You said, and I quote, 2 men in expensive dark clothing standing in my kitchen in the dark. That is not a man. That is a security concern. One of them told you not to come in early. Why is a security concern giving you scheduling advice?" Naya sat down on her couch and looked at the ceiling. "I am too old for this. You say that every time something happens that you want and you are not ready to want yet. Nothing happened. Something happened. Something happened in your voice just now when you said it. I know your voice, Naya. I have known your voice for 15 years. There was a silence. "He had a scar," Naya said quietly. "On his jaw. Small. Right here." She touched her own jaw without meaning to. Dana said nothing for a beat. Then, "Okay, now we are actually talking." Naya shook her head at the ceiling. 38 years old. Done with all of this. Completely done. She looked at her hand, still resting on her jaw, and put it back in her lap. The first time she saw him in daylight, she was arguing about a delivery window. It was 3 days after the kitchen encounter. She had come in to begin prep for a Thursday evening event and discovered that her scheduled delivery of cold storage items had been pushed back by 2 hours without her knowledge, which meant her entire prep timeline collapsed, which meant she was going to have a conversation with someone about it right now. She was in the middle of that conversation, standing in the corridor outside the kitchen with her arms crossed and her voice very calm in the way that her voice got calm when she was actually the opposite of calm, when she became aware that the logistics coordinator had stopped talking mid-sentence and was looking at something behind her. she turned. He was standing at the end of the corridor, dark suit, same posture as the kitchen, completely still. His eyes moved from the coordinator to her and stayed there. The coordinator said something she did not fully hear, and then walked away very quickly. She looked at the man at the end of the corridor. He looked at her. She noticed the scar first, the thin line along his right jaw. Then she noticed his eyes and the particular quality of stillness in them that she had felt in the dark kitchen but could now see fully. He was not looking at her the way most people looked at her. He was looking at her the way you look at something you are trying to understand. Your delivery window was changed without authorization, she said, because she did not know what else to say, and someone in this building had disrupted her timeline. He considered this. I'll have it corrected. By noon. A pause. Something shifted almost imperceptibly in his expression. By noon, he said. The delivery arrived at 11:47. She noted this without commenting on it and continued her prep. Now I need to stop right here and ask you something, because some of you watching right now are on Naya's side. You are watching this woman and you are thinking, hold that wall, stay in your peace, you built something real and you do not need to let anyone inside it. And then some of you saw his face in that corridor and you are already team whatever is happening here. Drop it in the comments right now, team wall or team whatever this is, because things are about to get very interesting. What Naya did not know, what she could not have known standing in that corridor discussing delivery windows, was what the man in the dark suit was. His name inside the organization was simply Kang, one name, one syllable. The kind of name that did not need elaboration in certain rooms. He had built his operation with the same precision and patience that other men applied to legal empires, the difference being that the rules he operated within were his own, enforced absolutely, and answered to nothing that wore a badge. He was not a violent man by preference. He was precise. There is a difference. Violence for its own sake was noise. Kang did not make noise. He moved quietly and thoroughly, and when something was resolved under his authority, it remained resolved. The hotel was the latest in a string of legitimate acquisitions that served as the public face of a much larger and much less public architecture. He had not planned to be in the building this week. He had come personally because someone on his accounting team had found irregularities, and Kang trusted his own eyes above all else. He had not planned to find a woman in his kitchen in the dark. He had not planned to find her in daylight 3 days later. He had not planned for the delivery window conversation to make him feel something that he recognized after a moment as being impressed. Not attracted, impressed. There was a difference there too. He told himself there was a difference. Rook noticed Kang checking the hotel schedule on his phone twice in one day. Rook said nothing. He filed the observation with the quiet efficiency of a man who had been watching his employer for 11 years and knew the difference between a pattern and an anomaly. This was beginning to look like a pattern. The woman who arrived at the hotel on a Thursday afternoon was not the same species of person as anyone who worked there. She walked into the lobby like she owned it, which she did not, but the air did not know that. She was wearing a structured ivory blazer and moving at a pace that suggested her time was priced at a rate most people in that building had never considered. Her black hair was cut at an exact angle at her jaw. Her smile was on and calibrated. Her name was Yuna. She was there to have lunch with the hotel's event director. A social visit, she had called it. Nothing significant. It took her 4 seconds to categorize Naya, who was moving through the lobby corridor with a stack of supply delivery notes, her natural hair pinned up, her apron already on, moving fast and capable and completely in her element. 4 seconds, a sweep of the eyes, a slight recalibration of the smile, and then Yuna looked away, filed, dismissed, categorized as no relevant variable. She had no way of knowing that the man she was going to marry in 53 days was about to find a reason to have a meeting on the kitchen level that afternoon. No way of knowing at all. That evening, Dana arrived at the kitchen with takeout containers and the expression of a woman who had news. "I did some research," Dana said. "On what?" Naya said, not looking up. "On the man who now apparently owns this hotel." Naya looked up. His name is Kang. That is all anyone seems to know about him, just Kang. One name like a musician or a warning. Dana opened a container. He acquired this property 6 months ago. Before that, 3 other properties in the city, all mid to high tier, all acquired quietly. Why are you researching who owns the building I work in? Because you drove back at 11 at night for a phone charger and came home with a specific expression that I have not seen on your face in a very long time. I did not come home with an expression. You came home with the face of someone who has been reminded of something they forgot they knew. Naya was quiet for a moment. Then, he got my delivery window corrected. By what time? 11:47. Dana looked at her with both eyebrows elevated. Naya. It is a delivery window, Dana. It is the most on-time delivery window this building has probably ever seen. Naya picked up a container of food and began eating with great intention. Dana smiled to herself, said nothing more, and ate beside her. Above them, 3 floors up, a man who had told himself he had come to review procurement figures was looking at a work schedule on a screen. His finger scrolled to Thursday, then to the following Monday. He noted the names in the kitchen booking log. He set the screen down. He told himself it was building management. He had never been a convincing liar when it came to himself. The refrigeration unit died on a Thursday evening at 7:15, not dramatically. There was no alarm, no visible catastrophe, just a quiet cessation of function that Naya noticed because the hum she had stopped consciously hearing about 2 years ago suddenly was not there anymore. She opened the unit. Warm air. She checked the settings. Normal. She opened it again as if the second look might produce a different result. It did not. She had a delivery in 4 hours. 6 dishes, 2 of which were cold service, all requiring consistent refrigeration until plating. She was alone. The hotel's maintenance line went to voicemail. She tried the after-hours facility number. It rang twice. She crouched down in front of the unit with her phone flashlight and a general feeling of controlled fury and began trying to diagnose the problem herself. She heard the kitchen door. She did not stand up immediately because she was in the middle of something, so she said without turning, "If you are maintenance, the compressor panel is on the right side. If you are not maintenance, I am going to need a minute." A brief silence, then, "Where's the panel?" She turned. He was standing 2 feet from her in a dark suit with his collar open. She had never seen him anything other than fully assembled, and the loosened collar did something to the room temperature that she was going to pretend was the broken refrigeration unit. She pointed to the right side of the unit. He crouched down beside her. Their shoulders were approximately 4 inches apart. He had a phone light on too, angled at the panel, and he studied it with the focused attention of someone who either knew what he was looking at or was not going to let himself not know. "Relay switch," he said. "Can you fix it?" He reached past her to access the panel latch. His forearm crossed directly in front of her. She shifted back fractionally to give him room. He opened the panel, examined the interior, and found the failed relay with his finger like he had done it before. "Do you have a spare relay in the supply cabinet?" "3rd shelf from the top. Black box, small." He stood and went to the cabinet and came back with the box and crouched beside her again. She watched his hands work. Precise, economical, no unnecessary motion. He replaced the switch with a quietness that felt practiced. He closed the panel and stood. He pressed the reset button. The hum returned. She let out a breath she'd been holding for approximately 8 minutes. "Thank you," she said. He was about to step back, and he reached past her to test the upper vent seal, and his hand brushed the inside of her wrist. Not a grab, not deliberate. The barest graze of fingers against skin, and neither of them moved. 1 second, maybe 2. She could feel the warmth of his hand in the air above her wrist, even after he pulled back. He looked at her. She looked at him, both of them perfectly still in the warm kitchen light with the hum of the restored refrigeration unit filling the silence between them. He stepped back. "Your vent seal needs replacing in the next 2 weeks, he said. "I'll put in a maintenance request," she said. He nodded. He picked up his jacket from where he had set it on the counter. He walked to the door and stopped with his hand on the frame without fully turning. "Your delivery will run on time," he said quietly. And then he was gone. She stood in her kitchen for the second time in 2 weeks with the particular feeling of a woman who has told herself a very convincing story about herself for a very long time, suddenly finding a paragraph that does not quite match. She called Dana from the car on the way home. She described the evening in its entirety. She used a neutral and informational tone throughout. When she finished, there was a brief silence on Dana's end. Then Dana said, "He came to your kitchen after hours, fixed your refrigeration unit, grazed your wrist, told you your vent seal needs replacing in 2 weeks, and then personally guaranteed your delivery time. Yes, Naya, it was a relay switch. That man is not coming to your kitchen after hours to fix relay switches. He owns the building. He owns 3 buildings. He is not personally visiting the refrigeration units of all of them." A pause. "He is coming to see you." Naya said nothing. "You know what I have not heard you say tonight?" Dana said. "I have not heard you say you are too old for this." Naya said nothing for a long time. Then quietly, "Good night, Dana." Dana was already smiling when the call ended. She had known Naya for 15 years. She knew every version of her voice. The version she had just heard was a voice she had not heard in a very long time. It was the voice of someone fighting something she had already lost. 3 floors up in the same building, in a room that served as a secondary operations office, Rook sat at a desk with 2 folders open in front of him. He had found the discrepancy while running a routine compliance audit on the hotel's historical lease documentation, an anomaly in a legal instrument from 12 years ago, a voided commercial lease, a catering operation cleared from an East Side building during what had been recorded as a facility restructuring. He had pulled the full file, and then he had looked at the new catering contractor agreement. And then he had sat very still for a long time. He closed both folders. He placed them side by side on his desk. He rested his hands flat on them. He needed to think about when to take this to Kang, because once he did, nothing would be the same on either side of that conversation. What Rook knew, what was sitting inside those 2 folders under his hands, was this. 12 years ago, Kang had given an order that cleared a specific commercial property on the east side of the city. A faction had been using the building as a meeting point, and Kang had shut it down. Clean, efficient, exactly the kind of decision that had built his reputation. What the record showed now was what else had been in that building. The management company that held the subleases had been given a sum to relocate all tenants. The sum had been paid. The tenants had been listed and cleared. One of them was a 26-year-old woman running a catering business out of a commercial kitchen on the 2nd floor. Her lease voided. Her equipment, which she had been making payments on, repossessed under a false legal instrument arranged by the management company to cover their own misappropriation. She had lost everything. The money that had been paid for her relocation had been absorbed and never reached her at all. Her name was in the file. Her name was Naya. Rook picked up his phone. He put it back down. He picked up the folders and locked them in his desk drawer. He turned off the office light and sat in the dark for a while. Some information changes everything it touches. This was that kind of information. Rook had never needed to prepare for a conversation with Kang before. In 11 years, he had delivered bad news, worse news, and information that had direct consequences for people's lives, and he had always walked into those conversations with the same measured calm he brought to everything. He was made for difficult information. It was one of the reasons Kang trusted him above anyone else. But the morning he brought the folders to Kang's private office, he walked in and set them on the desk without sitting down first. That was unusual. Kang noticed. He looked at the folders and then at Rook's face. "Sit down," Kang said. Rook sat, and he opened the first folder. He explained the discrepancy without editorializing. He laid out the East Side operation, the order Kang had given, the management company, the false legal instrument, the money that was paid but never distributed. He explained what the records showed about the tenants that were cleared. He listed them in the order they appeared in the file, without emphasis, without hesitation. And then he turned to the second folder. He placed Naya's catering contractor agreement beside the historical lease file. He pointed to the name in the old file. He pointed to the name on the new contract. He looked at Kang and said nothing. Kang sat without speaking. His face showed nothing. But Rook had known this man for 11 years, and he could see what no one else would have been able to see. The quality of Kang's stillness had changed. It was no longer the controlled stillness of a man in authority. It was the stillness of a man who has been handed something he cannot put back. A minute passed. Kang reached out and touched the edge of the historical lease file, not picking it up, just touching it. "She lost everything," Rook said quietly. It was not a question. "The management company took the relocation payment," Kang said. His voice was flat. "She never received it." "No." Another silence. "Her equipment was repossessed under a false instrument that we did not write but that we created the conditions for," Kang said. "Yes." "She was 26. He did not phrase this as a question either. "She was 26. She rebuilt from nothing. 7 years to get back to a comparable operational level. The business she runs now is substantially what she was building then." Kang was quiet for a very long time. He stood. He walked to the window and looked out at the city below with his hands clasped behind his back. "Does she know?" he said. "No. There is no reason she would have connected this building to anything historical. The management company dissolved. The records were internal. Does she know who I am, what I am? I do not believe so. Not specifically." He stood at the window for a while. Rook waited. "Does anyone else have access to this file?" "No." Kang turned back from the window. He looked at the 2 folders on the desk. Then he looked at Rook. "How long have you known?" 3 days. "Why did you wait?" Rook met his gaze without flinching. "Because I needed to know what to do with it. And so do you." Kang sat back down. He pulled both folders toward him. He read through the full historical file with the same focused attention he had given the refrigeration panel the night before. When he finished, he closed the folder. He set it precisely on the desk. "Leave them with me," he said. Rook stood to go. At the door, Kang said, "Rook." He stopped. "Every scene I have replayed in my head of every decision I have made since I built this organization," Kang said quietly. "I have told myself that I was precise, that I was never careless, that the costs of what I did were the costs that should have been paid." He looked at the folder. "I was wrong." Rook did not offer comfort. He did not reassure. He simply said, "I know," and left. Kang sat alone in his office with 2 folders and the particular weight of understanding that the woman he had been finding reasons to stand near for 3 weeks was the woman he had been looking for without knowing it for 12 years. Not in the romantic sense, in the sense that matters more, in the sense of a debt that cannot be repaid but cannot be ignored. He sat there for a long time, and when he stood, his expression had not changed, but something behind it had. The days that followed were the quietest kind of complicated. Kang moved differently through the building now. He still came. That was the thing that Rook noted and said nothing about. He still came, but there was a new stillness in him when he was near the kitchen level, the stillness of a man carrying something he could not set down and could not show. Naya noticed the change too. She could not have named it, but she felt it. The deliberate quality of his attention when their paths crossed. The fact that he had started arriving to review things at times that coincidentally overlapped with her schedule. The way he sometimes stopped outside the kitchen corridor and then kept walking, as if he had been about to do something and changed his mind. She had stopped telling herself she was not noticing. She was 38 years old, and she was very aware that what was happening and completely unsure what to do about that information. She was also waiting for the contract decision. The hotel chain had said 10 business days. It had been 12. Yuna made one phone call on a Tuesday morning. She sat in the back of her car with her phone to her ear and her expression composed and pleasant, and she spoke with the contract director of the hotel chain for 9 minutes. She did not threaten anyone. She did not raise her voice. She simply positioned herself as someone who had an interest in the chain's upcoming partnership decisions and expressed a perspective on the relative merits of various candidates. She spoke with the relaxed authority of someone who expected to be listened to. She was. When she hung up, she looked out the window for a moment. Then she opened her calendar and moved to the next item on her list. She had simply identified a variable and adjusted for it. Naya received the email on a Thursday afternoon. Her proposal had been placed under review pending further assessment of operational capacity. No timeline given, no specific concerns cited, just the smooth final language of a door being very politely held closed. She read it twice. She set her phone face down on the counter. She continued prep. Dana arrived that evening and found her working in silence. Real silence. Not the comfortable working silence. The other kind. "What happened?" Dana said. Naya told her about the email. She told her in a steady voice with her hands continuing to work and her expression professionally composed. Dana sat on the counter and watched her best friend hold herself together with both hands and felt a specific kind of anger that had nowhere to go. Tell me in the comments if you felt that, because what just happened to Naya's proposal was not a business decision. Someone who has never worked a single day for what Naya has built looked at her dream and decided it was an acceptable price to pay for their own security. I need to know if you felt it. Naya was fine. She was absolutely fine. She told herself this from Thursday evening through to Saturday morning, which was when she sat at her kitchen table at home with a cup of tea that had gone cold and let herself feel it for exactly 15 minutes. The disappointment, the specific kind of quiet devastation that arrives when something you wanted with real intention does not come. The kind you cannot share because you are a woman who has built a life on competence and people rely on that image of you and you do not get to fall apart publicly. She gave herself 15 minutes. Then she washed the cup, got dressed, and went to work. Kang told Rook to cancel the wedding on a Sunday. He said it without prelude, sitting across from Rook in the operations office with a cup of coffee and the folders on the desk between them. Rook looked at him. "There are consequences. List them." Rook listed them. The merger implications, the rival syndicate's response, the 3-year negotiation that would be voided, the operational vulnerabilities that would open. Kang listened to all of it. He nodded. He said, "Handle the consequences." "You understand what I am telling you," Rook said. "I understand completely. This is not a small decision. I know what it is." Rook looked at him for a long time. Then, "Does she know you are doing this?" "No." "Are you going to tell her?" Kang picked up his coffee. "There are things I need to tell her first, in the right order." Rook nodded and stood. He had a great deal to manage. He was not displeased. She heard it by accident. She had come back to retrieve a supplier document she had left in the kitchen that afternoon, and the operations office door was not fully closed, and she heard Kang's voice inside. She was not trying to listen. She heard her old address. She stopped. She heard, "The East Side property." She heard, "She doesn't know." She heard, "The file has been locked." She did not hear the rest, because Rook shifted his position and the door angle changed, and the next sentence was lost. She stood in the corridor for approximately 4 seconds, and then she walked out of the building. She had been here before. Not this building, this moment, this specific feeling of a floor disappearing beneath you when you had believed it was solid, the feeling of being discussed in a room you were not in, the feeling of something being kept from you by someone who had chosen you specifically because you would not think to ask. She had been 26 years old the first time. She had rebuilt herself from that experience, and it had taken everything she had. She did not cry until she was in her car, and she did not let it last long. She called Dana that night. She did not tell her everything. She said the contract was not happening. Something had come up with Kang. She was fine, she would explain later. Dana, who could hear the third version of Naya's voice with absolute clarity, said, "Where are you?" "Home." "Stay there. I am coming." "Dana, you don't have to. I am already in the car." Naya looked at her phone after the call ended. Then she set it on the coffee table face down and sat in the silence of her apartment and let herself understand the full shape of what had just happened. She had let someone in. Not all the way in, but enough. Enough that the distance back to closed felt very long. She had told everyone she was too old for this. She had meant it, and for a few weeks she had forgotten she meant it. And now here she was, sitting in the dark, remembering. Dana arrived with nothing. No food, no comfort items. She sat down beside Naya on the couch and was quiet for a long time. Naya, who had been waiting for Dana to say something, looked at her. "You are not going to tell me I told you so?" Naya said. "No," Dana said. She was looking at her hands. When Dana stopped being loud, it meant something was serious. "I am going to tell you something I should have said a long time ago, and I need you to listen to all of it before you respond." Naya turned to face her. "You have used this decision to be done with love like a wall," Dana said. "Not a healing, a wall, and I have watched you do it for 10 years, and I have respected it because it was your wall, and it was your life, and you did not ask for my opinion." She looked at Naya. "But you drove back at 11 at night for a phone charger and came home with your hand on your jaw, and you told me about a relay switch with your whole voice, and tonight you are sitting in the dark because something frightened you and you ran." She paused. "I am not telling you what he is. I am telling you that you do not know what you heard, and you have a choice between the story you are already writing and the one you have not found out yet." Naya was quiet for a long time. "What if the story I have not found out yet is worse?" she said. "Then you will deal with it," Dana said. "But you will deal with the real thing, not the version you built in a corridor in 4 seconds. She took Naya's hand. "You are not 26 anymore, Naya. You do not have to protect yourself from information. You are strong enough to hear the truth." The room was quiet. Then Naya stood up. She found her coat. She found her keys. She looked at Dana, who was sitting on the couch with the face of a woman who had done everything she could do. "If this is terrible," Naya said, "I am going to need you to be on my couch when I get back." "I will be here," Dana said. "I will not even change the channel." "Before I tell you what happens when she walks through that door, I need you to go to the comments right now and tell me what you think Kang is going to say. I want to know if you saw this coming. What do you think he does when she walks in? Drop it in the comments right now, because the next few minutes are going to change everything." She found him in the operations office. The door was open. He was standing at the window. He heard her come in and turned, and the expression on his face when he saw her was not the command mask, and it was not the calculating interest. It was something she had not seen before, something that looked like relief and dread at exactly the same time. "I heard what you said," she said. "The East Side property. She doesn't know. The file." She stood with her arms at her sides. "I need you to tell me what that means." He did not look away from her. He did not hedge or delay or rearrange the room with words. He pulled out the chair at the desk and gestured to it. She sat. He sat across from her. He opened the folder, and he told her everything. From the beginning. The East Side building. The faction he was clearing. The order he gave. The management company. The false legal instrument that he did not write, but that his order created the conditions for. The relocation money that was paid and absorbed and never reached the tenants. The 26-year-old woman in the second-floor kitchen who lost everything she had built and had to start again. He told her when Rook found it. He told her what was in both folders. He told her about the 3 days between Rook's discovery and the conversation in this office. He held nothing back, and he did not perform remorse. He simply told her the truth in full, which is a much harder thing. When he finished, the room was completely silent. She looked at the folder. She looked at her own name in the historical file. She looked at the date. She was quiet for a very long time. "When did you know it was me?" she said. He did not hesitate. "The kitchen, the first night. I did not know why. I had never seen your face, but something recognized the shape of what I owed, and I could not make myself leave the building." The silence was different now. Softer. More dangerous in the way that real things are dangerous. "I am not asking you to forgive the decision," he said. "I am not asking you for anything. I am telling you the truth because you came here for it and you deserve to have it." She looked at him for a long time. If this story is landing somewhere real right now, if something about this room and these two people is doing something to you, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button right now. Because this channel is where stories like this live and there is so much more coming. What Yuna did next was the most precisely calculated thing she had done yet. She arrived at the hotel the following morning with documentation, an updated merger agreement, and 2 attorneys. She requested a meeting with Kang in the main conference room. She had prepared for every contingency except the one where Kang had already decided. He walked into the conference room and he looked at the attorneys and the documentation and Yuna's calibrated expression, and he said 4 sentences. The merger terms were being renegotiated independently of any personal arrangement. His legal team would be in touch with her father's organization directly. The personal component of the agreement was withdrawn. She was welcome to contest this through whichever channels she preferred. Then he left. Yuna sat in the conference room for a very long time after. Her expression did not change, but her hands were very still on the table. She had calculated for everything. She had not calculated for a man who simply decided. She picked up her bag. She stood. She walked out without speaking to either attorney. Some games end not with a counter move, but with the other player putting down the board. If you know someone who has ever decided they were too old, too tired, or too done to try again, share this video with them right now, because sometimes the story someone needs to hear is not yours to keep. Dana was on the couch when Naya came home. She had not changed the channel. She was eating chips very quietly and watching the door. Naya walked in. She sat down beside Dana. She was quiet. "Well?" Dana said. "You were right," Naya said. Dana put the chips down. She turned fully to face her best friend. "About which part?" "Most of it." Dana looked at her for a long time, and then she put her arms around her, and Naya let her, and the room was quiet and warm, and that was enough. The contract came through 10 days later, not the original hotel chain's deprioritized version, a new one, from a different group entirely, for 2 properties, with an option for a 3rd. The director who called Naya had found her proposal through a referral from someone who had tasted her work at an event 3 months earlier. Nothing to do with anyone but her. She stood in her kitchen and read the email twice. She put her phone in her pocket. She looked at her kingdom, her stainless steel surfaces, her knives in their block, her cardamom and her smoky sweetness, everything she had built from scratch twice, and this time she was going to build it bigger. She allowed herself 20 seconds of private celebration. She had earned them. Rook smiled once. It was a Tuesday morning, walking past the kitchen level, when he saw Kang stop at the kitchen doorway with 2 cups of coffee, and Naya look up from her work, and a very small and completely genuine expression pass across Kang's face that Rook had not seen in 11 years. The expression of a man who is exactly where he chose to be. He kept walking. He had a great deal to manage. He was entirely satisfied. Been 3 weeks since the conference room. 3 weeks of Kang arriving at the kitchen in the mornings with coffee. 3 weeks of conversations that started as practical and became something else by the time they ended. 3 weeks of Naya learning that the wall she had built was still there, but she had found the door in it, and she was deciding each morning whether to open it, and each morning it was getting easier to decide. She was 38 years old. She had built a life of such competence and warmth that most people did not see the wound. But she was beginning to think that the right person did not need to see the wound to know it was there. She was beginning to think that some people recognized the shape of what they owed before they understood why. She was in her kitchen on a Tuesday morning, cardamom in the air, and he was at the counter across from her with his coffee, and his phone rang. She watched him look at the screen. She watched his expression shift into something she had never seen before, a complex and layered thing. Not alarm exactly, but something adjacent to it. Something that suggested a door opening onto a room neither of them had been prepared for yet. He looked up from the phone and met her eyes. "There is something else," he said quietly. "Something I did not tell Rook." The kitchen was very still. Subscribe and hit the bell if you are not already there. And go to the comments right now and tell me what you think Kang has not told Rook. Tell me what you think is on the other side of that phone call. Because part 2 is coming, and I promise you, nothing is what you think it is.